This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me is Bob Arum. Bob, last time we spoke, you were getting your vaccine. How did it all go?
Yeah, vaccinated, and now Tuesday, 16th of February, my second shot, and then I'm good to go. First shot, I had absolutely no reaction, so I'm looking forward to my wife, Lovey, and myself getting our second shots on February 16th.
Glad to hear it. Of course, you must have heard in the last hour or so that fans at a basketball game will be attending at MSG 2000, we hear. That's really positive news, isn't it, Bob?
Yes, because we've been talking with MSG, which we have, very strong relations with. And so we believe that by June, when we're ready to go, they'll be able to accommodate hopefully 50 to 60% of the capacity. And we're going to look, starting April, to do events with limited spectators. The last two bubble events that we will do with virtually no spectators will be February 13th, with great light heavyweight championship fight with Joe Smith against Vlasov, and Comey, the lightweight that lost to Teofimo, will be on the card. And then the following week, a fight I'm sure is going to end up a fight of the year candidate, Burchell against Valdez, the battle for all the marbles of Mexico. That will be the 20th show, and we're looking forward to that. And after that, we're out of the bubbles. In other words, we'll do the protocols with testing the fighters and as we've been doing, but we're going to only do fights where we have spectators, maybe limited, maybe complete, but time to move on.
Just a point to pick up on that Feb 13 show this Saturday, the world title light heavyweight fight, which Joe Smith Jr. Obviously features in. That will be on BoxNation in the UK, correct?
I don't know. Is it?
Premier Sports and Fight TV.
Premier Sports and Fight TV.
Okay. So UK.
Premier Sports and Fight TV. It will be, of course, free to the public in the United States on ESPN.
Okay. Is there a view for that fight, the winner of that fight, to fight the winner of Beterbiev's fight on, I think, March 20th?
I think maybe a week later he's fighting. I'm not sure exactly, but you're right, the end of March. And since both of these fighters, Joe Smith and Beterbiev, fight for us, and since the clouds are breaking and the sun is coming in and we're able to do fights with spectators, I would love to do that fight. I am sure that we could sell out all 20,000 plus seats in Madison Square Garden.
On the theme of spectators, what's the situation with Vegas? I'm asking really because of that Taylor Ramirez fight. What's the situation with spectators there?
Well, I talked with the governor of Nevada, who's a friend of mine, and we talked about other subjects. He called me about another subject, and then we spoke about spectators. And he said, and of course there's no guarantee because things could go different ways, that by the beginning of May, they will allow spectators, say maybe 50% capacity. And of course, that wasn't necessarily, the boxing thing is a small part, but all of these casinos have showrooms and they attract tourists. So that's very important for the economy of Vegas, that they'll be allowed to have show events and with 50% capacity. So I am very confident that Ramirez and Taylor will be seen with substantial number of spectators. For example, if I did it, the fight at the MGM Grand, they have over 16,000. So presumably I'd be allowed to set it up for 8,000. So that's good news.
Is it likely to go to the MGM, Bob, or could it end up in the Allegiant Stadium, etc.?
I think Allegiant Stadium, frankly, may be too big. And the big expense going outdoors, I mean, that's always a possibility. And if the other casinos other than MGM in Las Vegas said that they would support it in Allegiant Stadium, where we could put in maybe 20, 25,000, then we would do it. But right now, I'd be very happy even if we did it for 8,000 people. But again, yeah, Allegiant is beautiful, great facility, hasn't been used for an in-person event because of this coronavirus. And it's just waiting at beautiful suites, beautiful everything.
Well, if UK fans are allowed to go to America by then you might have to move it to the Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, exactly right. Hopefully, UK fans will be allowed to go and to come back. And we're talking with the government in Nevada, for example, to be very safe and maybe to increase the number. We could say that no one would be allowed in unless there was proof of vaccination or unless they had taken a COVID test which showed negative 48 hours before. And for those that don't do the first two, we could then set up tents and do fast testing. And if they're negative, they can come in. Anyway, we're working along those lines. In other words, we're not going to be cowboys and we're not going to do anything that's not safe. But I'm optimistic that as we move from the late spring to the summer, we're going to be able to slowly but surely get back to normal.
Well, we know Matchroom are going with Canelo and Saunders on May 8th, and Taylor Ramirez was supposed to be then. Of course, now we're looking at May 22nd. How did that situation resolve itself?
Well, you know, everybody knows everybody. We know the DAZN people, and they contacted Todd DeBuff, who's the president of Top Rank, and they said that Canelo has always gone on Cinco de Mayo weekend, and would we be able to move off that weekend? And we went to ESPN, and they said, sure, they're happy to accommodate it. So we're moving, I believe, to May 22nd. You know, again, another 2 weeks we pick up if things get back more to normal. But promote networks and promotion companies have to begin to accommodate each other.
Well, I think it's a
And we did. And we did.
Brilliant move for boxing fans in general. Bob, what's the current situation with Lopez, Kambosos Jr.? We know purse bids are due soon.
Well, right now, the IBF has called for a purse bid. We're optimistic that we can get it sorted out before and go to a contract with both sides before the purse bid. If not, we'll go to purse bid. I just think people got into the act and it became a mess, but hopefully it'll get resolved. I had a call last night from one of the principals who indicated that they want to get it resolved. Because look, from the standpoint of Teofimo, he has been built on ESPN, and there's no entity that has the exposure that ESPN does, because it's an all sports channel and they have different channels and they're on constantly with features on the fighters. And if he went to another platform just for that fight, he'd come back to us afterward, there wouldn't be the same push, because, like, for example, the Zone doesn't have that type of megaphone, and Fox has enough, Al has enough on his plate to feed his own fighters on Fox. So we'll see. We'll see what we see. Again, if we have to go to purse bid, we'll put an adequate purse bid in. If we don't, we'll get it resolved beforehand. But I'm optimistic we'll get it resolved.
Well, hopefully you can reach a deal soon. If it does go to purse bids, a lot of parties have been very vocal, including Devin Haney's father, who runs Devin Haney Promotions, and Eddie Hearn as well, saying that they're going to bid for this fight. Just thoughts on that?
Well, I assume if they do that, they do that. That's fine. I mean, I don't think that'll make Teofimo very happy. So, again, and obviously, I don't think that Eddie Hearns will bid for that fight because, again, we're hopefully going to be working together on the biggest fight in years, and that's a stupid way to start a relationship where everybody is going to look for promoters to be cooperative, putting on the Fury Joshua fight.
He said in an interview yesterday that you called him recently and kind of said, let's stop talking about Fury Joshua in the media. Is that correct?
Yeah. In other words, I agree. There's a provision in the agreement that the participants will not talk about it until the deal is done and there's a joint announcement. And we intend to adhere to that. And I know Eddie's own people have chastised him for already violating it. And Eddie has to be quiet until this deal is finally done. We're making great progress. He has pros representing him on his side and Joshua's side. And we have terrific lawyers, on our side. When we exchange drafts with Matchroom. Matchroom then marks it up. And gradually, that's how, on a big deal, you narrow the issues. And we are certainly narrowing them. And so on our side, when we have our own conferences, we have the lawyer for Tyson Fury. We have Frank's lawyer, Top Rank's lawyer, and Frank and myself. And that's the team. And when we go back to Matchroom with our comments, they have been vetted by everybody on our team. So that makes it easier for Matchroom dealing. They don't have to deal with 5 separate entities. They just deal with us, with our lawyer, who they know deals with everybody on our side.
Okay. Sticking with the heavyweight division, Bob, what have you made of this recent feud between Deontay Wilder and Mark Breland? Have you been keeping up with it?
Well, I mean, one has to objectively question Wilder's sanity. I mean, this is beyond the pale. I mean, here, Wilder accuses his corner guy, who was a Olympic champion, a professional champion, middleweight champion, a champion, world champion, who has an impeccable reputation, great gentleman, and so forth, accuses him of spiking his water, which made no sense, his own corner man. And then when the corner man answers back, because, as Donald Trump shows, when you make stupid, false statements, there are a certain number of people that believe it. So Breland answered back, and to show how absurd it was, that why would he spike his own guy's water? Wilder went crazy, called Breland ungrateful. I mean, made no sense. I mean, he's living in a different universe. Now, I would be more offended by it and more incredulous if the former president of the United States hadn't been just as ridiculous. That's the truth. Taking falsehoods and turning them into his version of the truth. Wilder is doing the same thing. Maybe he's caught, maybe what Trump did is catching, like the coronavirus, and Wilder has caught it from Trump. I don't know.
Oh, Bob, you are good value sometimes, well, all the time, really. It's not nice to see, though, between a former trainer and a fighter.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It made no, just like the gloves. I mean, it's great to say, hey, he doctored his gloves, he did this and that. But it's impossible in Nevada. You can't doctor your glove. The fighter doesn't have the gloves until he puts it on in the presence of the other corner. So there's no opportunity in Nevada for the fighter to doctor his gloves, let alone the fact that Fury wouldn't do it.
Bob, how was your meeting with Oscar De La Hoya?
Well, it was more social. I promoted Oscar for a gazillion years.
Hi, Lamar.
I promoted Oscar for a lot of years, and we're still close. We even though we're competitors and so forth, with that period of years and those what we were through, good and bad, but mostly good during that period, there is always a tendency to reminisce because on both sides it was so successful. So when Eric Gomez and Oscar, who I knew from that time because he worked for Oscar then, when we get together and have lunch at my house in LA, we spent most of our time reminiscing about the good old days, like you would expect. But they're terrific guys, and we did talk some business, but again, it was mostly social.
Did Terence Crawford and Virgil Ortiz Jr. get brought up?
Yes, they brought it up. It hadn't occurred to me. And they have Ortiz fighting Hooker, I believe, which is a decent opponent. And it's sort of interesting because Hooker now is part of the same camp that Terence is in. Bomac is the trainer, Brian McIntyre. So if Virgil beats Hooker, it's big incentive for Crawford to fight Virgil. So yeah, that is a possibility.
What do you think about Errol Spence potentially fighting Ugas?
I don't know. If these guys, if Errol Spence knew what he was doing, right? Again, Spence and Ugas really is a decent fight, but it's a who cares fight, not a pay-per-view fight. Nobody even knows who Ugas is in the general public, even fight fans. So the fight that would do well in the welterweight division, other than a wild card like Virgil Ortiz, is Crawford and Spence. And I know Al Heyman would want to do it. I think somehow Spence is intimidated by Crawford and doesn't want to step in the ring with him. Because if he was confident, why the hell wouldn't he fight it? Because it's the biggest fight in the welterweight division. And like we've done before, Heyman's side could represent Spence and top-ranked Crawford, and the fight would happen. The only reason it's not happening is the reluctance of Errol Spence.
So you're blaming Errol Spence, not Al Heyman?
There's only one blame. I know that Crawford wants the fight to happen. Crawford's told everybody he wants the fight to happen. He's instructed me to make the fight happen. That's not the case with Errol Spence. All Errol Spence has to do is to make a statement. Al Heyman, that's the fight I want. Talk to Top Rank and get it done. Let him say that, and that will start the ball rolling. You understand? Doesn't require a hell of a lot to say something like that.
Just before we go, just want a couple of updates. Firstly, on Mick Conlan. What's going on with Mick, Bob?
He's going to fight, I think, over in Ireland. It's tough when you fighters over here because they got to go through quarantine when they go back. So we're looking to get an appropriate opponent. I think Dogbay is the guy we're looking. Isaac Dogbay would be a terrific fight. If we make that fight, it will be on in the spring from Ireland, from Northern Ireland. And we want to get Mick back in action.
That would be fantastic. And also, just before we go, Lomachenko.
Lomachenko, we've talked with him, and we're looking early summer. We want to put Lomachenko before he's tired of fighting in bubbles. He's a big ticket seller. So we think we can do a big fight early summer in the United States, maybe against the Japanese boy, Nakatani. No, is it Nakatani? Yeah, Nakatani, who knocked out Verdejo and gave Lopez all he could handle, went the full 10 rounds with Lopez. So Nakatani is a really hard-punching lightweight, and we're looking to him as the opponent for Lomachenko.
Okay, Bob Arum, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. Best of luck with your second shot of vaccine.
Thank you. Hey, boy, I tell you, what a relief once I get the second shot.
We'll catch up soon. Thank you, Bob. Take care.
Good talking to you.